In an amazing, unforgettable night that would become one of the greatest tales of defiance ever told, legendary Clint Eastwood found himself at the center of an incident that defied expectations. Under a moonlit sky over Beverly Hills where every corner whispered opulence and history, something extraordinary was about to unfold. Something that would set hearts racing and ignite a storm of disbelief. The serene, meticulously manicured estate of Clint Eastwood, perched atop a hill like a modern-day fortress, exuded timeless elegance. Towering iron gates and perfectly trimmed gardens spoke of a sanctuary meant for a man whose life had been as dramatic as his on-screen legends. Inside, the atmosphere was steeped in memories, a study lined with relics from a storied career, movie posters that chronicled decades of cinematic triumphs, and awards that shone like beacons of legacy. At 94, Clint Eastwood no longer possessed the raw physicality of his youth, yet his presence was as formidable as ever, his eyes reflecting a lifetime of battles fought both on and off the screen. On that fateful night, as Clint savored a glass of fine scotch and let his mind wander over the vast tapestry of his past, an almost imperceptible disturbance disrupted the calm. Though the night had seemed ordinary, a peaceful interlude in a life filled with solitude, Clint's instincts, honed by decades of portraying justice and grit, told him something was amiss. The silence, usually so comforting, carried a hint of tension, a subtle shift that blurred the line between his vivid imagination and a very real threat. Miles away in the obscurity of a darkened street, a black van idled quietly. Within its tinted windows, three figures meticulously reviewed their plan. They were no amateurs, they were seasoned thieves, each playing their role with a confidence born of past successes. Their target was clear, the legendary actor's luxurious abode, seemingly a treasure trove of priceless memorabilia and secrets of a bygone era. To them, the quiet residence of a 94-year-old icon was nothing more than an opportunity waiting to be seized, a challenge they believed they could overcome with ease. As the thieves prepared to breach the gates of the estate, every calculated move and whispered plan resonated with an air of arrogance. They believed that the solitude of an aging recluse would make him vulnerable, that the peaceful nights of Beverly Hills would provide them a perfect cover. Their hearts brimmed with misguided certainty, unaware that every step they took was setting the stage for a confrontation that would shatter their assumptions. Back within the estate, Clint Eastwood, lost in reflective solitude amidst the memorabilia of a storied past, sensed the encroaching danger. A faint, almost imperceptible noise, a creak here, a soft scrape there, stirred the veteran's instincts. Instead of succumbing to fear, he transformed that subtle alarm into a strategic advantage. With deliberate calm, he approached his modest yet reliable security setup, his seasoned eyes detecting anomalies where others might see only shadows. In that moment, the house transformed from a peaceful sanctuary into a potential battleground, its every corner ready to echo with the footsteps of intruders. Clint's mind, as agile as it had been in his glory days, began to weave a plan. A plan not of brute force, but of cunning and precision. Every piece of furniture, every framed photo, every relic of his illustrious career became a silent accomplice in what was about to be a masterclass in defense. The calm before the storm was over, replaced by an electric anticipation, a promise that the night would soon reveal an epic clash between an indomitable spirit and the hubris of those who dared to invade his sanctuary. Thus, as the thieves inched closer, guided by their misplaced confidence and cloaked by the night's shadows, the stage was set. The legendary Clint Eastwood, armed with nothing more than his wits and a baseball bat that had seen more battles than most could imagine, was ready to transform his home into a labyrinth of traps and surprises. In that electric moment, the boundary between myth and reality blurred, and the first act of an unforgettable showdown was about to begin. As the moon climbed higher, the thieves executed their plan with cold precision. The black van, a silent harbinger of ill intent, now became a distant memory as the three intruders advanced toward the estate. Their movements were measured and deliberate. Every step taken under the cloak of darkness was designed to undermine the very sanctity of Clint Eastwood's fortress-like home. In the stillness of the night, their approach was marked by an eerie calm, a deceptive tranquility that hid the chaos to come. Outside the towering iron gates, the thieves began their assault on the estate's defenses. Their leader, a man whose eyes shone with overconfidence, examined the impressive barrier as though it were merely an elaborate puzzle waiting to be solved. With practiced ease, he deployed a discreet device, cutting through the security system that protected the legendary actor's abode. One by one, the electronic locks clicked open, and the gate slowly yielded, swinging inward as if inviting the intruders into a trap of their own making. Unbeknownst to the thieves, every calculated step they took stirred something deep within the aged guardian of the estate. Clint Eastwood, though seemingly lost in reflective solitude moments before, had long anticipated the possibility of such an intrusion. His mind, sharp as ever, began to orchestrate a counter-strategy. As the intruders slipped past the gate, they blended with the carefully maintained gardens, a maze of manicured hedges and shadowed pathways that had witnessed decades of history. But these gardens, which once symbolized the beauty and tranquility of a bygone era, were now transformed into a labyrinth designed to confuse and ensnare. Inside the sprawling mansion, the ambiance shifted from serene comfort to a charged atmosphere of impending conflict. The study, a room that had always served as Clint's refuge, a place where mementos of his illustrious past whispered secrets of triumph, was suddenly alive with tension. Clint's eyes, burning with the resolve of someone who had weathered countless storms, scanned the security monitors with a steely focus. The brief flicker on one of the cameras had been the first indication of trouble, and it now crystallized into a clear picture. Silhouettes moving stealthily near the side entrance, their presence a direct challenge to the sanctity of his home. Clint's body, though aged, moved with an agility and precision that belied the passing years. With deliberate calm, he retrieved his trusted baseball bat, a relic of days when raw determination was the ultimate weapon, and began to set the stage for a confrontation that would test both his tactical genius and his unwavering courage. Each step he took was infused with the same quiet intensity that had defined his storied career. In his mind, every room, every corridor, and every cherished artifact would become a piece of his intricate defense, turning the very fabric of his home into an arena of retribution. Meanwhile, the intruders pressed deeper into the mansion. Their initial confidence began to waver as they encountered unexpected obstacles. Locked doors strategically bolted from the inside, darkened hallways where light seemed to vanish into an abyss, and the eerie silence that now felt more like a prelude to a relentless ambush. As they moved from room to room, the ornate decor, once a proud display of Clint's cinematic legacy, served only to remind them that they were trespassing in a space that held more than mere treasures. It held the spirit of a man who had defined an era, and that spirit was now mobilizing its defenses. In the dim corridors, the intruders split into groups to search for valuables, their flashlights casting erratic beams that revealed more of the home's grandeur than they had anticipated. The walls, adorned with iconic film posters and framed relics of Hollywood's golden age, seemed to watch silently as the men hurried through the space. Their hearts, once emboldened by greed, now quickened with an inexplicable sense of foreboding. Every step they took, every whispered plan between them, was shadowed by the unmistakable feeling that they were being led into a trap from which escape would be impossible. Clint, aware of their division and disarray, used the darkness to his advantage. He moved unseen along hidden corridors, a ghost in his own home. With the practiced hands of a veteran who had choreographed countless on-screen battles, he began to set his own traps. Flickering lights were extinguished with the turn of a switch, plunging entire sections of the house into near total darkness. He arranged obstacles along key pathways, an overturned chair here, a deliberately left open cabinet there, each detail designed to delay and disorient his uninvited guests. As the thieves advanced further into the mansion's heart, their confident swagger gave way to a palpable anxiety. They found themselves wandering in a space that had once symbolized opulence and security, but now exuded an atmosphere of controlled chaos. Their sense of unity began to splinter as they encountered dead-end hallways and sudden, inexplicable noises that echoed off the marble floors. The subtle yet deliberate misdirection set by Clint had turned the once familiar layout into an ominous maze, each twist and turn amplifying their growing dread. The night deepened, and the tension in the mansion grew more intense with every passing moment. Clint's mind raced through decades of experiences, lessons learned on gritty film sets, long nights of solitary contemplation, and hard-fought victories that had defined his career. Each memory became a silent vow his home would not fall prey to the arrogance of those who sought to defile it. In the interplay of shadow and light, the estate transformed into a theater of retribution, where every creak of the floor and every rustle in the dark was a precursor to the impending clash between the legendary guardian and the invaders. In the depths of the night, as the thieves regrouped in confused clusters within the once familiar rooms, the stage was set for the inevitable confrontation. Clint Eastwood's home, a repository of decades of cinematic glory, had morphed into a battleground where the lines between legend and reality blurred. With his unwavering resolve and the silent promise of retribution, Clint had prepared every inch of his sanctuary for the struggle that lay ahead. A struggle that would test not only the mettle of the intruders, but also the enduring spirit of a man who had never known defeat. As the intruders became further entangled in the maze of Clint Eastwood's meticulously transformed estate, chaos began to replace their initial confidence. The darkness, now thick with uncertainty, cloaked each hallway and every corridor, leaving the thieves disoriented and vulnerable. In one wing of the mansion, a young burglar, nervous and inexperienced, found himself isolated in the study. There, the weight of his misplaced ambition bore down upon him as he struggled with a locked cabinet, his hands trembling uncontrollably in the oppressive gloom. Every second that ticked by amplified his mounting dread. He realized with each passing moment that the sanctuary he had assumed was an easy target was, in fact, a fortress of cunning defenses. Elsewhere within the labyrinthine halls, the rest of the intruders were rapidly losing their sense of unity. Their once carefully choreographed plan began to unravel as every step led them deeper into unexpected traps. The pristine corridors that had echoed with their hurried footfalls now resounded with the sound of misdirected echoes and the clattering of hastily disturbed objects. A carefully positioned obstacle, a tipped-over chair here, a strategically placed cabinet there, served to fragment their group. The thieves found themselves separated in the maze, their individual panic intensifying with every misstep. Clint Eastwood, ever the silent sentinel of his domain, moved like a shadow between the rooms. Each measured step was a testament to his years of experience, his mind racing through tactics honed on both film sets and life's unforgiving battlegrounds. The veteran knew that the element of surprise was his most potent weapon. With stealth and precision, he circled around the intruders, orchestrating an unseen assault that preyed upon their growing disarray. In one pivotal moment, the young burglar in the study, overwhelmed by fear and the realization that he had underestimated the man whose legacy graced every corner of this home, finally faced the inevitable confrontation. As he fumbled with the lock-picking tools, his concentration shattered by the sound of a sudden, deliberate rustle behind him. He sensed the approach of an adversary far beyond his capability. In the dim light, Clint's silhouette emerged, a formidable figure whose presence conveyed both authority and unyielding resolve. The intruder's initial defiance melted into stark terror as the veteran's eyes, cold and unrelenting, fixed upon him. Across the mansion, the other intruders began to experience similar moments of stark realization. Their carefully laid plans crumbled as each step through the transformed space revealed another of Clint's well-laid traps. In the main corridor, one of the thieves stumbled over a deliberately displaced object, his panic mounting as he realized that the silence of the house was not one of calm, but of calculated menace. The thief's thoughts, once filled with greed and a sense of invincibility, turned to cold dread. Every misdirected step, every unexpected noise, underscored the lesson that this was not merely a theft. It was a test of their arrogance. Clint's defense was not a chaotic frenzy, but a series of deliberate, almost artistic maneuvers. He manipulated the very structure of his home, turning each familiar corner into an arena of uncertainty for the invaders. With the flip of a switch, entire sections of the estate were plunged into darkness, leaving only the erratic beams of flashlights to reveal fleeting glimpses of desperate faces. The sound of shattering glass and clattering debris punctuated the oppressive silence, each noise orchestrated to amplify the thieves' terror. In that moment of disarray, the isolation of the intruders became palpable. The young burglar in the study, caught in his own web of fear and confusion, faced the reality of his impending fate as Clint's presence loomed ever closer. Simultaneously, the leader of the group, once brimming with unshakable confidence, began to feel the weight of his miscalculations. His steps faltered in the face of the labyrinthine obstacles, and every shadow seemed to whisper of imminent retribution. The unity that had once defined the group disintegrated into scattered fragments of panic and regret. Clint's mind raced as he surveyed the unfolding chaos from the vantage points he had so carefully chosen. Each trap was a calculated move, every unexpected obstruction a part of a masterful strategy to dismantle the thieves' resolve. With quiet determination, he ensured that every intruder would face the consequences of their audacity. There was no need for reckless violence when precision and experience could sow such deep-rooted fear. His footsteps, deliberate and measured, echoed with the weight of decades spent in the crucible of action and consequence. The mansion, once a quiet sanctuary filled with the echoes of a celebrated past, had transformed into a battleground of wits and willpower. In the interplay between light and shadow, between calm and chaos, the true mettle of both the defender and the invaders was laid bare. Clint Eastwood's enduring spirit, tempered by years of cinematic and real-life struggles, was now the guiding force that turned the tide. With every trap sprung and every whispered sound that unsettled the thieves, the legend of the indomitable guardian grew stronger. In the heart of this orchestrated pandemonium, the intruders' arrogance had given way to a visceral fear. Their once bold and calculated advance had been replaced by a frantic scramble for escape. A desperate, uncoordinated attempt to regain control in an environment where every element was aligned against them. As the night deepened, the mansion bore silent witness to their crumbling unity, a living reminder that no one could outsmart a man who had spent a lifetime mastering the art of survival. Under the shroud of chaos, as the intruders frantically attempted to regroup, Clint moved with relentless precision through his estate. The darkness, once a cloak for the unwelcome trespassers, now served as his ally. Each measured step echoed along the time-worn corridors, where every creak of the wooden floor and every whisper of shifting shadows became part of an intricate, orchestrated defense. Within the labyrinth of halls, a lone thief, separated from his confused comrades, found himself overwhelmed by isolation. His hurried footsteps betrayed his growing terror as he navigated the maze-like passageways, only to discover that nothing was as it seemed. Unbeknownst to him, Clint had anticipated every misstep. With subtle interventions, a slightly askew picture frame here, a quietly latched door there, he deepened the intruder's disorientation, transforming every familiar corridor into an unpredictable trap. At the same time, the self-assured leader of the would-be burglars tried desperately to rally his crumbling crew. But even in the spacious, once familiar foyer, the intruders encountered a reality they had not foreseen. The once warm glow of ambient lighting was extinguished at Clint's command, leaving only fleeting beams of nervous flashlight to reveal a battlefield replete with hidden dangers. The oppressive silence was punctuated by sudden, resounding crashes, the sound of antique vases toppling and heavy furniture sliding, each noise a deliberate strike to shatter the invader's confidence. Clint's strategy was as much psychological as it was physical. He expertly exploited the element of fear, understanding that terror could be as paralyzing as any weapon. In a long, narrow hallway, the subtle trigger of a carefully arranged obstacle, an unstable pile of cherished heirlooms and carefully positioned furniture, sent a cascade of objects crashing down. The clamor resonated through the corridors, leaving the intruders in a state of panicked disarray, their earlier arrogance melting away into stark dread. Every deliberate action taken by Clint was a resounding statement. This sanctuary, built over decades and imbued with memories of battles fought both on-screen and in life, would not be defiled. As the night deepened, the mansion itself seemed to awaken in his defense. The very walls, adorned with relics of a storied past, bore silent witness to his unyielding resolve. Each room was transformed into a stage where his well-rehearsed strategy unfolded, turning the once familiar layout into an ever-shifting maze designed to confound and isolate the intruders. In the midst of this calculated chaos, Clint emerged as the omnipresent guardian of his legacy. Moving like a shadow through the darkened hallways, he repositioned obstacles and set in motion the final decisive moves of his defense. His actions were not driven by malice, but by a steadfast determination to protect a lifetime of honor and achievement, a legacy that was far more than a collection of trophies and mementos. It was the embodiment of a spirit that had weathered countless storms. Now, with the intruders scattered and their unity shattered, the stage was set for an inevitable collision between their desperate resolve and Clint's unwavering fortitude. In that transformed mansion, now a living testament to the power of experience and cunning, every corner promised another twist in this epic saga. The night was far from over, and the battle for the sanctity of Clint Eastwood's home had entered its most critical phase. As the mansion's defenses reached their climax, the intruders found themselves on the brink of total disintegration. The once confident thieves, now scattered and isolated, staggered through darkened corridors where every step resonated with the weight of impending reckoning. Their plans had unraveled into a cacophony of fear and confusion, each sound magnified into a harbinger of doom by Clint's deliberate design. In one wing of the estate, the self-assured leader, his earlier arrogance reduced to grim desperation, frantically tried to reassemble his disjointed team. His eyes darted around, seeking any semblance of control amid the shifting darkness. But the mansion had become an unpredictable labyrinth. Every familiar corner now a potential trap, every shadow a lurking threat. His voice, once commanding and resolute, now trembled with uncertainty as he bellowed orders that were quickly lost in the echoing silence of a house turned hostile. Meanwhile, Clint Eastwood, the unyielding guardian of his legacy, moved through his home with a quiet, inexorable determination. With each carefully calculated step, he followed the movements of his unwanted guests, his senses alert to every whispered sound. He knew that, more than physical prowess, his real weapon was the artful orchestration of fear. Every trap he had set was a testament to decades of experience, a ballet of retribution where precision and timing ruled supreme. In a long, narrow corridor adorned with relics of cinematic glory, one of the intruders, a once composed burglar now trembling with dread, stumbled into a dead end. Here, the silence was broken by the deliberate clatter of a dropped frame, its crash echoing like a gunshot in the night. The thief froze, heart pounding, as the realization sank in. Escape was no longer an option. Hidden just beyond the flickering beam of his failing flashlight, Clint appeared. A spectral figure, bat in hand, his presence radiating an unspoken promise of justice. Across the mansion, similar scenes unfolded. In the grand foyer, a second burglar attempted to force his way through a door that seemed to lead nowhere. Instead, he was met with an unexpected obstruction, a cascade of carefully placed obstacles that knocked him off balance and sent him reeling into darkness. Each mishap, each faltering step, was a note in Clint's symphony of retribution, composed with a mastery that only a man of his caliber could muster. The entire estate seemed to pulse with an almost sentient energy, a living fortress that fought back against the intruders with every creak and whisper. Clint's strategy was not to simply repel the trespassers, but to dismantle their cohesion piece by piece. In doing so, he transformed the home into a battleground where each misstep by the intruders was a stroke in a larger masterpiece of tactical defense. The leader, now isolated and disoriented, huddled in a shadowed corner, his confidence shattered as he realized the futility of his endeavor. Every attempt to rally his team was met with failure, each cry for unity drowned out by the ominous silence of a house that had turned against him. The intruders' unity, once their greatest strength, now lay in tatters, replaced by a fragmented chorus of fear, regret, and the growing inevitability of defeat. Clint moved with deliberate calm through this chaos, his every action underscoring the undeniable truth. His home, his legacy, was not to be trifled with. In the quiet intensity of that long, dark night, he embodied not only the characters he once portrayed on screen, but also the indomitable spirit of a man who had faced every conceivable challenge and emerged victorious. With the intruders trapped in the maze of their own making and their confidence evaporated in the wake of Clint's calculated defense, the stage was set for the final reckoning. In the next moments, the shattered remnants of their audacity would be confronted with the full force of a legend who had dedicated his life to standing up for what was right. In the final act of a night that had transformed a peaceful mansion into a theater of retribution, the shattered remnants of the thieves' ambitions faced their ultimate reckoning. The once confident intruders, now mere shadows of their former selves, found themselves cornered in a vast, echoing hall where every light seemed to conspire against them. Clint Eastwood, the unwavering guardian of his legacy, moved with the measured precision of a man who had spent a lifetime mastering both the art of cinema and the harsh lessons of reality. The leader, still reeling from his isolation and mounting dread, attempted one last desperate plea for order. His voice, rough with regret, rang out against the oppressive silence as he bellowed for his scattered crew to regroup. But the mansion, transformed into a labyrinth of peril by Clint's artful design, offered no safe haven. Each corridor, each hidden nook, had been meticulously rigged to remind them that their presence was not only unwelcome, it was an affront to the very essence of the home they had dared invade. As the leader's cries faded into the heavy darkness, Clint emerged from the shadows like a specter of inevitability. With his trusted baseball bat in hand, a symbol of decades of defiance and valor, he advanced slowly, every step a measured testament to his indomitable will. The intruders, now huddled in a disjointed cluster, watched in paralyzed terror as the legend himself approached. Their hearts pounded in unison with the echoes of Clint's steady gait, each beat a countdown to the final confrontation. One by one, the thieves found their fate sealed. The young burglar from earlier, whose trembling had betrayed his inexperience, attempted a feeble retreat down a narrow passage, but the path had been rigged with obstacles that turned his escape into a futile scramble. A cleverly positioned stack of antiques tumbled at his feet, scattering memories across the floor and trapping him in a web of his own making. His eyes widened with the dawning realization that there was no exit from the maze of retribution Clint had so carefully orchestrated. Elsewhere in the hall, the leader made a final, misguided attempt to muster courage. His voice, now barely more than a whisper, pleaded with fate for a sliver of mercy. Yet every corner he turned, every echo that bounced off the mansion's storied walls, reminded him that his arrogance had been his downfall. Clint's presence, calm yet utterly unyielding, had transformed the night into a battleground where the only victors were those who respected the sanctity of legacy and home. With the intruders' unity shattered beyond repair, Clint seized the moment to deliver a final, uncompromising message. He halted in the center of the grand hall, the soft glow of moonlight illuminating his weathered yet determined face. His voice, low and steady, filled the space with a resonance that left no room for negotiation. You brought this on yourselves. In my home, every action has a consequence. The words, simple yet profound, echoed off the walls as if the mansion itself were affirming his resolve. For a long, tense moment, silence reigned, a silence heavy with the realization of defeat and the bitter taste of regret. The intruders, now reduced to a trembling mass of remorse and terror, dared not move. Clint's eyes, steeled by a lifetime of battles both on-screen and off, swept over them with an unspoken promise that their mistake would be remembered as a lesson in hubris. Then, with deliberate finality, Clint signaled for the authorities who had been quietly en route ever since the first sign of intrusion. The soft murmur of approaching sirens mingled with the residual echoes of the night's confrontation, a sound that carried both relief and the weight of justice served. As uniformed officers stepped into the grand hall, their presence confirmed that the night's events were drawing to a close. Clint allowed himself a brief moment of quiet satisfaction, a deep, resolute acknowledgement that he had once again defended not only his home but the very essence of what it meant to live with dignity and honor. The intruders were led away in silence, their defeat a testament to the fact that no amount of planning could outmaneuver a man who had dedicated his life to standing up for what he believed in. As the last of the officers took notes and the subdued murmurs of the onlookers faded into the night, Clint remained alone in the grand hall. The mansion, though scarred by the events of the evening, exuded a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder that every mark, every shattered piece, was a trophy of resilience. In that quiet aftermath, Clint Eastwood, bat still resting casually by his side, surveyed the room with the calm satisfaction of a man who had once again proven that age was merely a number, and that courage, experience, and an unwavering commitment to what is right could defy even the darkest of nights. With the echoes of the confrontation slowly receding, Clint walked toward the entrance, pausing at the door to glance back one final time. His eyes, filled with a quiet intensity, reflected both the scars of the night and the enduring spirit that had defined him through every twist and turn of his storied life. Stepping out into the cool night air, he locked the door behind him, a symbolic final act of closure, and allowed himself a rare, fleeting smile. The legend of Clint Eastwood had grown yet again, a tale of defiance and triumph that would be remembered long after the intruder's regret had faded into history. And as the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, bathing the estate in a soft golden light, Clint walked back inside. The house, a repository of memories and battles fought with quiet valor, was restored, not to its pristine condition, but to a state of resolute calm that spoke volumes about the strength of its master. Tonight had been a testament to the enduring truth. In the face of adversity, a true legend never falls. He only rises to meet the challenge, stronger and more determined than ever before. If you enjoyed this story, there's another video on screen right now. Go ahead and give it a look for an even more astonishing stories. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, that way you'll never miss our newest uploads.